My name is Darral Addison, and my company's name is Torpedopot.
Hey, it's Kellen, and today on Diversified Game, Mr. Addison is about to give us the game on, if you watch the African Diaspora News Network and other YouTube platforms, they may be on as well, but this advertising is just on there, and it will blow your mind that you can grow your own fruits and vegetables in your house, and you don't have to have a green thumb, which I admit I have tried many a times. I don't have a green thumb. So when I saw pots that can grow and I can set it and forget it, I said, we must be in the Twilight Zone in the black and white episodes. So welcome to the show, bro. How are you doing? And how are you doing? And just give us the game on how did you create something this great where even if you don't have a green thumb, you can still grow food.
Thank you, Kellen, for taking time to interviewing me and my background and my history. It's amazing because most of us most of the people I talk to don't have the ability to grow food. They feel that they're inadequate. They've never been trained on it. They don't even know what to eat. I mean, most of the food that we walk outside is edible, but we don't know, we can't identify those foods. Then when you start to consider the fact that it takes a lot of time to grow food, just think of it. The average American spends $400 a year on developing tools just to grow food. That's insane. You multiply that by the amount of Americans out there, that's a huge amount of money. Then after you grow the food, you need tools, spade, trowel, several, tiller, all these other things, which adds to that, financial burden. Well, Torpedopot, you take all of that stuff and you literally just throw it away. You don't need to bring in a big truckload of dirt and put piping underneath the grounds and putting tarps and having to go outside into weed. All of that is completely eliminated. And that's what Torpedopot does. The reason why it was created, of course, everything starts up with a personal reason. But right now, we're about to revolutionize the whole industry, and we're about to bring it down. And we're going to create new businesses and new opportunities for a new class of people.
Now, with that class of people, again, our grandmothers, or I say my grandmother, on both sides, they all had preserves. They had stuff. They were always growing fruit everywhere. I can really say I've dropped the ball. We've tried, but we've lived in certain places sometimes where things weren't as beautiful as they are here in South Florida.
Right.
How did you make it where it can be set it and forget it? Because we're used to, you got to water it so often. You got to prune this, you got to prune that. How does this work? Are you using some new technology that we don't know about?
Actually, I am. But the new technology, the majority of the new technology is re-educating us. I like to ask your viewers just 5 simple questions. These 5 simple questions are going to change their whole paradigm to food and gardening and everything else. But let's start with the first question. Can I ask those questions now? Is that okay?
Please ask away.
So let me ask you a question. When you were 13 years old and the age you are now, could someone put their hands in your head and stop you from growing? Could someone physically hold you back from growing?
No.
Absolutely not. So are you saying that I cannot grow you and you cannot grow me? Is that what we're saying here? In other words, what we're saying is that we grow naturally, right?
Yeah.
So why are we trying to grow food? It grows naturally.
But I think people get overwhelmed because they say, well, if I have 30 pounds of celery, which, you sent out an email and it blew my mind. One, when is it going to go bad? How quickly do I have to, cut it off? And what else do I have to do? Like, we just don't have the education that our grandparents had. So you're really just taking the past and saying, hey, this is all you have to do and nothing else. So there's no, nanotechnology of things being down.
Well, there is. Remember, I'm going to go into the second question. I think we need to take a look at. But I've written 10 books. I own 3 corporations. I have 5 degrees. I'm an expert in many different levels and so many different areas. And when I say that, I truly do mean that. But with that being said, let's go to the second question that may support, what you just said. When I say, hey, Kellen, let's go outside and let's plant a garden. Let's grow some food. What tools do you normally use to plant that garden, sir? Well, you and I are going outside, but what tools do we normally use to make that happen?
Well, when we were, I'm going to answer you and tell me when I'm wrong, because I'm going to use the little shovel. We got the wheelbarrow. We got the fertilizer and the seeds. I know we need to bring the hose, or we got to bring the buckets. Right. And outside of that, I'm clueless.
Now, I'm going to tell you as a response to that, that's going to blow your mind. I want you to understand that every tool that you just mentioned are the same tools that they used in ancient Egypt.
I dig it. I dig it.
So only let you know how backwards the whole agricultural paradigm is. It's so backwards that what it's doing is not feeding us only. It does feed us, but it's also poisoning us. So you can't grow food. There's no tools you don't need tools to grow food. It grows naturally. What do you need all those tools for? So let's ask a third question. Go ahead, Kelly. You want to say something?
No, I'm listening. I'm a student. I'm when the teacher is teaching, the student is quiet.
So when you have a pile of soil or dirt and you see plants coming out of the ground, you have to ask yourself, what is taking place? So I want your viewers and you and even me to constantly think about what is really growing our food. And even though we have an ecology from the sun and the rain and the waters and environmental conditions, what is really growing our food? Because really, the concept of making organic food or having an organic environment doesn't create healthy food. Because we can't grow our food. So what Torpedopot does, we take a step back. If you're walking down the road, you see a plant coming out of the ground, it looks great. It's got rain, it's got water. It maybe has some nutrition. You come back a week later and that plant is dead. That means that environment that plant was in is no longer sustainable. For that particular time, during that growth stage, for that plant, it needed those conditions. It exceeded those conditions now and is no longer sustainable. What the Torpedopot does, it creates a sustainable environment for any plant in the world. So it can now develop itself and grow. Most of us think that if we give our plants good soil, that the soil is the basis for growing that plant. What we fail to realize, just like we make our beds at nighttime and wake up in the morning and make our beds, plants do the same thing as they interact with the soil. Plants are the ones that are building their own environment. When I throw fertilizers at the plant, I disable the plant's ability to interface with the environment. And what I'm telling the fertilizer to do is to take it as a drug and turn it green and make it behave great. But it doesn't have all the pharmacological properties that the original plant would have. Did I explain that correctly, or did I just back up and speak again?
No. You are good. You are good. I get it. So you're saying we're really the problem. The plants are going to do what they're going to do when we put them in the right setting, and that's why we can set it and forget it, and we don't have to overthink it.
I think you're trying to take my job.
What I'm trying to do, and why I love this, and I'm telling you, I just can't wait to be a customer, is when those stores shut down, is the things that my grandmother is still alive, is what she warned us about. And very few of us even had our 20-pound bags of rice and beans. My neighbors were looking at me like, you got a cup? No, I got a cup. Nah, this is the Twilight Zone. In the shelter episode, if y'all remember, for those of you who are old enough to remember the shelter episode, he built his shelter. Everybody was laughing at him until they needed shelter. So you have the food that we all need. And that part can be very scary in this USA that we live in. So yeah, please keep going and teaching us and letting us know.
Yeah, you're so right. It is very, very scary. The reason why I'm not as scared is because I've got that one base covered, which is my food. If everything else hits the fan, I can grow food on demand. I can go outside, throw seeds in, and have food available for me within 7 to 9 days. If I'm growing microgreens, I can have them immediately available to me. So that's what this is. This is about growing food on demand. But we're carrying it one step further. One of the reasons why that we're on the African Diaspora News Channel is because we want to be able to create an ecosystem that fuels the economic development of our children, giving them opportunities about a science that now they know that the founder of that science, the creator of that science, is right in their midst. And there's no third or fourth middleman ripping them off and stealing money from them. They go directly to the marketplace. We've been able to grow in 15 feet, 600 tomatoes, 600 tomatoes in only 15 feet of space. There's no reason why any area in the United States that are dominated by any particular group of people cannot develop their own marketplace. There are two things that are given to you in this world that are has huge economic potentials. And I know a lot of people may not understand it, but it does. Two of the things that we do to have huge economic potentials. Well, first of all, we bathe. So all of the bathing paradigm that goes with the bars of soap, the hair stuff, all of that creates a huge economic stream of income coming in. But what we do is that we provide food. So every day you're going to have to eat. So you might as well profit from what you're eating. Why give it to someone else? That's something you do every day that you're guaranteed to have profit from, that has been given over to someone else to make profit off of you.
Now, when you say profit, you're really talking the audience's language, because I know, people say, wait, you mean I could be my own store? Will I have to have any type of licenses? Will I have to be at the farmer's market and sweat it out every day? Or can I have people, legally come to my house and buy because I can't eat 600 tomatoes, right? Do you have a playbook, or have you written a book on that? How to grow and sell your food?
Yeah, if you go through we have some of the top-notch people on our board of directors, top-notch people who work with the USDA, work the FDA, work with all these agencies. So we know how to grow food. We know how to market food. We know how to sell food. We know how to store food. I'll give you an example. And our current plan is right now, we're trying to grow about 1,000 peppers in 15 feet. We took 35 seeds and we put them in one 20-inch planter, 35 seeds. One plant, one seed generated, one plant would generate 8 peppers. So 35 times 8 will be the total amount of peppers there. But in each pepper, there are 50 seeds. You have a potential of starting your own seed marketplace. Once you kick off with the Torpedopots, it's completely sustainable. You can do whatever you want to do. You can turn it into baby food. You can develop the seed marketplace. You can do a specialty pepper marketplace. You can do different types of genetic breeds that you're trying to work on. There's so many options for you to do what you need to do. Because right now, think of it this way. Our ultimate goal is to take every one of you who want to participate in this paradigm, lease the planters out to you, sell the planters to you. You would generate a profit, generate the food. You would take your food, put it back in our blockchain, and you would make a huge amount of money because we sell in bulk. So we'll sell 1 million tomatoes. Now, why is selling 1 million tomatoes important? Because there is no stock exchange for tomatoes. There is no marketplace for tomatoes. You have it for wheat, grain, corn, That gives us a whole independent marketplace on our own. That's just some of the ideas that we're working with through investors. And I might have said it a lot in one sitting, but you can narrow it down.
Well, I'm gonna ask for your expertise, because with your education and you being an author who you mentioned blockchain, and I tease people now because when people are in settings from the barbershop to the executive suites to the streets, if they want to sound smart, they say, let me just say blockchain. But let me tell you guys, this gentleman right here has written the book on cloud computing policy and acceptance, and he knows a lot more about it than the average person. So I need you to, one, tell us, will that book that I'm very interested in, will that teach us more about the blockchain? Is that a beginner's book, or do you have a remedial reading? Because I just want to have copies where I show people like, hey, here's the book. You know nothing. You don't even know how to code, and you want to talk about the blockchain. No, I know how to code. And they say this. They say, I know how to code. I have a Wix account. I said, no, I'm talking about from scratch. Like where the thing that goes like this. So,
I have a Wix account.
yeah. So give us the game on the blockchain and how you're using it and how others can learn quickly or slowly, but we just want them to learn.
Okay, I'm gonna throw something out there, and I'm hoping that our viewers can catch up on this really quickly. The purpose of the blockchain. The blockchain itself, really what it is like, it's a ledger where you can have transactional history from everyone around the world. Really, that's what it is. Which in real time can collect money, identify who's doing what and what transaction is taking place. So it's really but a cloud computing system with transactional abilities built into a system, where that instead of you going to the store and going to register and purchasing something, getting a receipt, there's an electronic receipt already sent out in cyberspace, and it's recorded through history. And so with the blockchain, it allows us to well, first of all, let me break it down, Kellen, because I want to talk about the different business silos we have. Can I go into that before I go into the blockchain?
You have the floor. We are listening and learning.
So we have 5 business silos, and Kellen broke out one of them, which is the blockchain. But let's start with the Torpedopot. The Torpedopot is the world's first self-growing planter. It grows anything. It's almost impossible for a plant to die in a Torpedopot if it's grown correctly. All you do is walk up, put your plants in, put your seeds in, turn on the water, set the cycles, and you walk away. All right. I can show you hundreds of plants I have outside that are growing that I don't really have time to water them. I don't need to do all that stuff. So Torpedopot waters, grows your plants all by itself. You do absolutely nothing. The second we have, which is going to hit a lot of your viewers, we make the world's first cannabis planter.
That got their attention.
So right now, remember, we've created a whole new process called sustainable biotic environment. That's our process. These are our patents. We have utility and we have design patents on what we're doing. But with this sustainable biotic environment is what we were talking about earlier, creating an environment for the plant. So each one of our planters are designed to create a sustainable environment. So what the Canopot does, we sent some of our planters away to a cannabis dealer and the cannabis grower in the distributor in Pennsylvania area. He took a look at it. He grew cannabis in it. He's licensed and everything else. And when he took pictures, he kept sending it back to me. And you'll see it on our website. It's called Canopot, CANA-POT.com, Cana-pot.com. And you'll see what he gave us back. And you'll see the little seedlings he has on the bench, and then you'll see the big cannabis plant in the background that he used our planters to grow. So our goal with this cannabis planter is that once we release this planter, it's a guaranteed $1 billion sale. So what we're doing right now is building up sales channels to try to find out, how do we market our products? Is there a community out there that we can reach out to? Because we do believe in integration. Or do we go to the big business, which we're in negotiations with too, to roll out as a humanitarian Torpedopot to feed the world? We have also Hosplant. It's the world's first hospital for plants. Now, Darral, why do you need a hospital for plants? Well, remember now, this is the first time in modern history, I say modern history, okay, that we've been able to now determine, I can sit down with my Torpedopot, I can change the color of my plants, the taste of my plants, how beautiful they are, how densely they're populated. I can change so many variables because now I have a planner that can change the environment. It's always like having a change of clothes when you go swimming and go biking and go jogging. And so your planner allows you to adapt it for any plan in the world. So the Hosplant does that. It allows you to do research you've never been able to do before. One of the last ones we have is agricultural blockchain. Because now we have a way of growing food at such an alarming rate, we can build a repository of food globally. All we have to do is send out 20 planners to your house, log you in as one of our distributors. This is the vision that we're moving to. Give your own login numbers, IC numbers, food numbers, and everything else. You follow our principles, you grow your food, you feed your family, access is thrown into the blockchain, which we buy from you to sell to the rest of the world. So if we would get in any city, even if we were to get like maybe 1,000 growers, and I grew 15 tomatoes, 600 tomatoes in 15 feet. If we get 1,000 growers, that's 6,000 tomatoes. We can create our own ecosystems and feed our own people, develop our own food. Remember now, everything around you comes from plants. Everything that goes in your mouth, 97% comes from plants. They've extracted everything they want to extract out of it, throw the stuff away. It doesn't fit into their processes. But all your vitamins, all of these things come from plants.
I have to ask you, are there any stupid laws that when this thing gets going that are on the books right now that people can say, that's too many, 6,000, you could do 5,999, but now you're in the grocery store realm and the FDA is there anything on the books now, or do you have a lobbyist working on this? Because I know farmers, market people, they have issues and they're like, what do you mean we can't sell this? Or we can't do it the way we're doing it. We're harming no one. We're doing it ourselves. We're asking for nothing. But then you have these stupid, whether they're state, county, or, city laws sometimes that come in. So what can we do, besides vote smarter politicians? George Carlin told us we get the politicians we deserve. Are there anything that is stopping the process that you think we can work on now while you're doing this?
Yes, sir. There's one major thing that's stopping the process, and we explained it earlier, and that is us. When we wake up and say, hey, listen, we really have been raised in, when your mom and your dad were planting and my mom and dad were planting, the grounds were very fertile. What we fail to realize is that we've taken billions of pounds of fertilizers globally and just threw it on the earth. And so we've also have pollution that is coming down, hitting the surface of the earth. And we think, because we've always taken for granted the earth will produce for you. But guess what? It's not doing it anymore. So we have to understand who we are. Let me give you an example, and this ought to wake our listeners up, sir, as you allow me to talk to them. Let's try to wake them up. I was in a young lady's house across the, not too far from us in our neighborhood, a little Caucasian girl, and we were sitting down. Her parents brought the planters and things like that. And we were sitting down talking to her, and I told her, I said, listen, I said, with the planter, you put your dirt in the planter and do what you got to do. And I said, now go wash your hands. And she went and washed her hands. And I said, how do your hands feel? She says, my hands feel great. I said, that's wonderful. I said, water washed all that off. Is that correct? She said, yes, sir. Water washed all that off. And I asked her one question. So where do we go now and wash the water that you just contaminated? And so new technologies is going to have to be developed to face the challenges that we're dealing with right now. And now you'll see the reason, even in the United States, people are buying huge tracts of land, trying to survive and everything else. But in actuality, all that is not even required, because we can grow the same amount you grow on a farm in your backyard with no problem at all. The Torpedopot is going to be such a game changer. It will create a net zero carbon footprint for you in as little as 10 to 70 years. We've seen growing Torpedopot 5 species of bees to come back and to pollinate these plants. Multiple butterfly species come back because now you've got the food there that they love to eat and be around. But what's so good about it, when you grow your food with fertilizers, you're compromising the chemical composition of that particular fruit. Bugs have not been eating that chemical composition, but what it does, that chemical composition compromises the ability of the plant to defend itself against certain insects. It was never there to begin with. Now, I know our food has went through such a huge change, but just remember that it has been around longer before we have.
Yeah.
I came later on the scene. Food was here before I even came on the scene. So obviously it has something inherent in its ability to grow that I simply don't have. With that being said, I know I'm throwing a lot out there, but I'm trying to get people to hit many points to get them to think at the end of the day, when they walk into that supermarket store, a lot of the characteristics about our behavior, how we think, are all attributed to the food that we eat. We think the brothers are spanned out on people don't realize brothers are hooked up on drugs and stuff like that. But all of us are being weighed down because we don't have the right vitamins and nutrients to continue to sustain our regular metabolism. Because we don't have it. And we don't see that. We don't know it exists. We don't realize the fighting and the challenges and everything else is a result of the food. Not only the food's effect, the pharmacological effects, but just the fact that we got to fight just to survive and eat food.
Well, let me ask you this, and these are for the people who, they see the pot, and even myself, because now you got me really wanting to buy one. I'm like, look, I'll move a pot or two because I just want to see it. This just sounds like I can do it. But do you need space? Because I remember living in Seattle, and even though we had a 3-bedroom place, apartment at that, the space is very limited in places like that. And you could be spending $3,000 a month or $6,000 a month to live and be like, I don't have the space. I'm gonna put this on my balcony and the rain is gonna hit it. So do you need a hose set up? Do you need an outlet set up? Like you have plenty of videos, you guys go check out the website, links in the description. But I just want to get that. How easy is this? I'm setting him up so he can knock it down and give us right.
I thank you so much, Kelly. You're a blessing in so many ways. With that being said, I'm going to throw something out that's going to blow your mind. These Torpedopots were designed for us. Our schedules are tight, don't have much space. Nobody wants to spend a lot of money throwing out the window. The return on investment on a tomato is horrible. I'm going to spend $400 to grow 5 tomatoes? No, I don't think so.
Man.
Then I got to go out there and weed and everything else. So what it is this. Listen very carefully. I have 10 Torpedopots. Those 10 Torpedopots grew 600 tomatoes. They grew 600 pea pods in the same freaking Torpedopots in multiple seasons. Now let's take a step back from that now. 10 Torpedopots can grow 600 tomatoes. They only require it for the water system we have. You only require 1 spigot. Once you hook those 10 torpedoes out to the spigot, they run automatically to yield 600 tomatoes. But those tomato plants only require from 1 to 5 minutes of watering, not watering like a spigot. What we do is that we apply the water to not destroy the soil matrix. So our applications are unique to the soil matrix to allow the fungus and the bacteria and everything else to grow and not destroy it, not to wash it out or to dry it out. So again, let me go back to it. 10 planters, 600 tomatoes. You're only watering from 1 to 5 minutes. Sir, how many minutes are there? And how many 5 minutes? It's 20 times 5 is 20 times 5 is what, 100. So 60, 5 minutes. So you'll have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. So you're looking about, let's say, for instance, 10-minute, 5-minute segments. So for every 5 minutes, you water for 5 minutes. Then the timer switches the pot to water the next 10 for 5 minutes. Then the timer switches to water the next 10 for 5 minutes.
Okay. I see. I see. And I promise you guys, if you email or call me months later and say, man, I did this and I did it with the cannabis, though, how do I get on that blockchain? Don't bother us about that. I don't need the federal issue. But for your food, and if it's legal, you set it up, y'all do what you do. But for the food, that is beautiful. So I told you, I'm going to move in less than a year. And is it something easy to move where I won't kill the plants if I take it off the timer in my time of moving?
Let me ask you this question. Mm-hmm. When you move with your current possessions and things like that, what are the 3 critical things you want to remove from your house to move to the next house?
My massage chair. That has to come with me. My supernova has to come with me everywhere I go. If I got to put it on my back and it's too heavy, it takes 4 or 5 grown men to pick it up. But yeah, professional movers too. But my massage chair, I have this is going to be funny. I have a favorite skillet. My uncle said it's supposed to be a family heirloom. So my skillet and I don't even know what the other thing is. I guess maybe the family TV, the one we have, but that's about it. But
listen, sir, to what you just said, you brought up the skillet. Mm-hmm. When African Americans and people who are challenged to have to move from one area to another, and it could be white, it could be anybody, because everybody has been forced through history to move, and most of them end up with their possessions on the back. One of the possessions you need to have is the ability to grow food. You need to have a torpedo. If you do not have a torpedo pot, then you're not growing and eating real food.
Man, that's it. You know what, Minister of Wellness, this is right up your alley. I might have to connect you, Minister, because this is a conversation that he loves to talk about food. And so many, this interview I'm going to share to so many personally, because, we have a more educated audience for listeners and we're fighting for the YouTube space, but this is the stuff that should be front page news, especially in the times that we're in, because this is necesito. Like you were saying, we need this. And I love this. Now you have mentioned it. Well, first, before I even ask you that, I want to know, how crazy did friends or family think you were when you said, I'm going to create this business and I'm going to have, pots? And, how much pushback did you get? Or are you in the rare minority where everyone was like, oh, we know you're brilliant. How do we become a part of this?
Yeah, I think that because it's a new, the existing growing consciousness is already out there. But nobody knows it exists because we're so busy doing genetic research, so busy going to the moon, that we can't deal with our problems here on Earth that we grow our plants in. We have no clue what's going on. So yeah, at first, nobody thought I was crazy because, like I said, I've got a number of degrees, written a number of books, but they didn't know the potential marketplace was there. And the pandemic just simply accelerated everything. Thank God. Yeah. And so, when you stick to, as I unfolded each page of my development, I do calculations to determine my ability to succeed and the risks that are associated with that. To be able to financially, to invest in a business and watch it develop and come out of the gutter to come up into a stellar environment. It's a really tough, long process. And yeah, people don't understand all of the dynamics, but from manufacturing to packaging to taxes to asset development to building to handling process controls to quality, to be able to order things from China and Taiwan and having them to mold my products and working with materials and the chemistry to make sure the consumer has that correctly. There's so many things that went into developing it, you know? And so you walk in with all of these skills, but remember, I had to walk in with how to use electricity, how to use plumbing, how to use water systems, how to use pressure, how to distribute pressure. So all these things have to be calculated. And if you're not going to use electricity, then you can say, okay, it's too cost effective for a consumer to use electricity. So it's just use the plumbing and the watering system and the pressure. And so you go through all these calculations for everything. But that's part of your development. That's your design. That's your baby. And so you got to beat everyone to the punch for this beforehand.
I'm sold, and it sounds like I can easily move. What some of my favorite things to eat are fruit, and the fruit here in America usually it never touches, like a pineapple here never touches a pineapple in Cameroon. I don't even call it a pineapple in Cameroon.
Yeah,
it's called an ananas, and the government does a very great job of not allowing certain foods to try to come over here. I have family members who've tried to sneak seeds and fruit. And my neighbors over here have the sweetest mangoes. I said, where'd you guys get these mangoes? They said, well, I don't even want to say where they got them. But then, I don't even want to say where they got them. Yeah. Because I enjoy getting them. and they're like, and so I don't want to say, NSA, you're the reason why. But I want to do mangoes. That's going to be the first fruit. And I'm going to buy this thing today because I want to put mangoes with this beautiful weather and be able to eat mangoes. How long would that take if I get the seeds? And if you guys have your own seeds, I'm also willing to try those. But mangoes, how long would it take to grow something like that?
Now, that's a very good question. I speak to, when I was with the cannabis growers, they brought me a set of seeds, and the seeds came from, I don't know, it came from Afghanistan. I'm not sure where it came from. And they said, these people who had these seeds, Mr. Addison, I'm on the top of the world. I have the rarest seeds. I'm in control. I can use these seeds and I can grow stuff. I'm going to have the best cannabis. It's going to be beautiful, Mr. Addison, blah, 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 blah. It's going to have, the cannabinoids, whatever it is, it's going to have everything, terpenes, everything will be built into it. It's going to be an ultimate product. I told him, take a step back. Let's take a step back and understand how our food grows. So you're trying to tell me that you can grab a seed from one location, put it in another location, and you should get the same output? It doesn't work that way. Are you following me, Kellen?
Yeah, I'm following.
The fungus, the bacterial environment in that area is not the same as the one you're going to do here. Once you take that seed and move it over here, the properties, the characteristic of that seed is going to change in just 2 generations. What the Torpedopot does is this, because remember now, the seed produces its own fungal environment, and then it starts to multiply and grow. But what's in that soil that seed originally come from, that environment is already there. So it's not like you have to create that environment anywhere. But what the Torpedopot does is differently, is that just like that mango, it creates an isolated environment that allows that mango plant to develop its own environment. Now, with that being said, please listen. The first thing people do when they see food, they want it to super grow. They want to be supercharged. I want to have it tomorrow, and it's got to be the best organic food in the world. And so we have to explain to our clients that food doesn't grow in your time. It grows in its own time. What you're getting from the supermarket is food that's grown in your time. And that's why it's hit with fertilizers and stuff like that. Now, does it mean that our planters will grow less as fast as the other planters? What it means is this, is that the food coming out of your planters will be more healthy. The food coming out of your planter will be more vibrant. They'll have more flowers. They'll have more flavors. They have more colors. The taste will be different. All these things are impacted by the fungal environment that you're creating inside of your planter. And that's why in one planter, we can grow 3 cabbage plants, or we can grow 50 cabbage plants. You determine what you want to do.
Okay. Okay. No, I got you. So if they don't, he didn't want to tell me so many weeks because he didn't want me to call him. Hey, these aren't germinating. I need my mangoes. I need my mangoes. But I do want to ask you, and you've
So
talked
funny.
about it through this whole interview. I want to know again through the whole interview. You've said it. But what is your community give back that you're doing, which I think you've already talked about, but
Right.
maybe there's one that you want to do in the future that you haven't talked about?
I'm going to tell you something that is going to happen. We're building the largest owned corporation, Afrocentric corporation in the history of the world. Who cares about the $1 million investment startup? All I need is $1 million, $1 startups. We're building an infrastructure right now, even with the African Diaspora News Channel. On our blockchain doesn't consist of just buying and selling goods. Our blockchain is designed to take your programming and incorporate it and put it on our platform. It deals with all types of entertainment. It deals with agricultural sales of goods and services. It deals with a technology infrastructure. It deals with all of the shows you would normally see on cable. All of this will be thrown into the blockchain. It will be a multi-faceted approach that will allow people around the world to invest. Once they invest, this will be for their children. This is like a company that we're not growing up this way with a man at the top. We're growing out this way, where everybody becomes the man and it becomes completely sustainable. And this is what we're working out. So touching my community, I spent many years, getting my education and everything else, but for the sole purpose of creating good for humanity. And I believe that creating jobs and opportunity, especially within my community, is the first start to saying that I care about humanity.
And I love that you care about humanity, but I was reading something the other day, and my wife, we were reading, and she's a scientist. I'm just a nosy guy. And it was talking about how jobs are now having to go on TikTok and places like that just to get generation, I believe Z, to apply for jobs because they don't feel comfortable or something on the LinkedIn. Are we as a community, as the world, are people like Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion gonna have to say, hey, check out my melons, let me show you how I grow them, and put them in the pot for people to get excited for what we need, which we're in that time. I mean, if we talk about the last days, go in the back of the book, the signs are all there. We need to prepare. But do you find that we are gonna, with a minority go up, I guess, the minority of people go who get it, and then we're gonna have to feed those. It's kind of like the middle class, George Carlin said it. The middle class is there to look at the rich, but to be scared of the poor. I'm paraphrasing. So is it going to be like that? Or do we have to use other methods and have the Cardi B's and the Kim Kardashians and the Kanye West say, hey, grow your food, or, be a square, be a lame? I mean, where do you think we're going with that?
That's a very good question. Because let's face it, Kellen, without you, there is no me. Without me, there is no you. But yet our sphere of influence is different. I mean, I don't see a family that doesn't have a brother like you and part of that family. And, part of me is probably in your family also. So it's going to take all of us to make this thing work out. There's nobody left out. Now, so the Cardi B's and all those are fine. One of the reasons why we don't look at Torpedopot as edutainment or entertainment is because we have a product, and we're really trying to sell a product. And we really don't want to bias the product with certain things that we're trying to push for the family, development of our communities and things like that. Don't get me wrong, I like that part of it because that's part of me. I mean, sex is who I am. I mean, we're all part of everything. I mean, I'm going to turn around and say, I'm not stupid. I enjoy life too. So sex will and always will sell. But with that, it is my the genre that I'm in is providing education and skill sets so we can sustain it economically. So if there is a transition over, that we can build up an economic presence so we can continue to do those things over and over again. So yeah, everything, all hands to bear, because all of us are different. Some will be entrepreneurs, some will not, some will be eating, but it doesn't make a difference. We just have to learn to work together to get this done.
Well, I need you guys to get this done. I need you to check out the links, check out the YouTube. There's so much. I knew he knew what he was talking about when I saw a video and it said talking about washing your soil. And that's a very important thing. But again, my grandparents talking about washing your soil. But I remember going to college before I got to Grambling and showing people, okay, hey, we're going to do this chicken. And it was people of another, you know, they were from another community. And they're like, hey, we got to wash the chicken. The store washed it. No,
I
you gotta wash the chicken.
I know.
Yeah. So you gotta wash your soil. He knows what he's talking about. You guys have been blessed with the game. I thank you for coming on, brother. We're going to take this off air and probably have even a better conversation. But you guys, make sure you share this. It will change somebody's life.
Is it hard to access affordable, healthy food? Then listen carefully. Darral Addison, an African-American inventor, has patented a process for growing food on demand. He called it Torpedopot. Torpedopot is a fully automated flower pot that gives you control over your plant's environment. All you do is add soil, seeds, and plants to the flower pot and watch it grow. Yes, Torpedopot grows the rest. Visit www.torpedopot.com